Hi, Mark Gilbert here. Thanks for clicking in. In this particular video, we're going to be giving you a review of the TV series Years and Years. Now, like all our videos here, they're designed to give you tools and ideas for our spiritual evolution. I hope you find it beneficial, and if so, I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. It lets YouTube know that you like the work that we're doing here. Years and Years is a British-produced TV show. It consists of 6 parts, and it's currently airing on HBO. My son recommended that I watch this, and you were right, Glenn. So you might be wondering, why am I reviewing this series on a video channel where we are talking about spiritual evolution? Well, part of it relates to the fact that the TV series shows the evolution of the individual characters through a number of years. It also shows their interplay between themselves and the culture at large and how that impacts them and changes their lives. We also get to see the evolution of technology in this series. Plus, at the heart of the program are some central key concepts like love and forgiveness, the interplay between technology and consciousness, and also where we're going and our personal roles and responsibilities in that. All of that we're going to come back to later on. What I'd like to do first is just to give you a brief overview of the series. Then, before I jump into a few things that we might consider spoilers, I'll give you an opportunity to stop at that point and then fast forward to a time marker later in the video where we'll come back and then talk about some key spiritual themes that I think are relevant for have it in the back of your mind when you're watching the show. So what's this program about? Well, essentially, it is following a family in London. It is 4 grown siblings, 2 men, their names are Stephen and Daniel, and 2 women named Rosie and Edith. And we get to see not only their lives and their partners, children, etc., but then they are in a relationship with one another as well as their grandmother. So there's this close family unit that we follow through around 2019 for the next 15 years. The series sort of advances every year or two as it goes to the next episode, so we get a sense of how they change through time. So as we follow this family unit through 15 years of their time, we also experience the culture that's going on around them, especially the political climate, as we see this character, Vivian Rook, who is played by Emma Thompson, as she rises to power and her influence on the culture and the culture's influence on her. And almost like another character in the TV series is the role of technology. Every time we fast forward to a new year, there is some technological change which is impacting folks' lives. And so this story gives this time arc of individuals evolving, their family unit evolving, their individual relationships evolving, their culture and technology all changing. And it shows the interplay between all of these and how everything is impacting everything else. Yet one of the key components of the whole series is the close-knit family relationship of the 4 siblings and their grandmother. They have this family background and shared history which binds them so strongly. And their children, their spouses and partners and all of them gets woven into this culture of the family, but even they recognize that it's the central family members that are bringing it together and holding it together. Now, one of the things we get to experience along the timeline of the 15 years is they get together for family gatherings. So many times the family gatherings are a central part of every episode. But even between the family gatherings, whenever something crucial happens to one of the members, they want to share it with the rest of their essential family. And so they all have calling groups, either on their cell phones or on their units in their houses, where they can immediately call everybody at once and get them all on a conference call. And that's done frequently through the series as critical things happen. Now, I got to say, I found that aspect of the close-knit family interesting because, to a degree, I see that going on with my own children. I've got 5 grown children, 2 daughters and triplet sons. They're all in their 40s. and they're very close and connected and do a lot of things together. And my ex-wife and her spouse, as well as my wife and I, were all involved and rolled into this larger family unit where there's texts that go out to everybody and things like that. So I could see that connectedness of my family unit relating to the connectedness of the family unit that's shown in this TV show. So at this point, I want to share a few things that might be considered spoilers. So for those of you who have not seen the series and think you might watch it, what I'd encourage you to do is to maybe jump over the next couple of minutes in this video. There is a time marker that's going to be shown on the bottom of your screen. Jump to that time marker, and we're going to be at that point coming back into some key takeaways regarding this particular series. Now, obviously, some of the things presented in this show were a commentary on our current culture and state of affairs, the high degree of nationalism and the rise of celebrity-type politicians who have a cult-like following around them. Obviously, the Vivian character can be easily related to some other characters that we've seen, maybe a Boris Johnson in the UK or a Donald Trump in the US. But these charismatic people that get a following around them and how they impact the system. What this commentary tends to say is that if we continue going down the current path that we are with this divisive nature, that there's going to be some negative outcomes occurring in our world. And those outcomes include loss of personal freedoms, the overtaking of our political system and our financial systems by a smaller and smaller group of elite people, and how they're going to be the ones controlling things, and that we'll have less personal power ourselves. That through all of that is a lessening of our standard of living, as there's a greater schism between the haves and the have-nots. The overarching story with the financial crisis, with Stephen losing all his money, having to work multiple jobs, the immigration issues that go on, with the storyline around the Victor character from the Ukraine, all point to a high degree of separation and fear of the other that is a path that we may be on if we don't take some personal responsibility. Another warning that seems to be in this is a loss of ethical standards by our politicians and our businesses. The business that Stephen worked for and then returns to obviously is doing some very disreputable stuff, some evil stuff that they are doing in partnership with the politicians. And that points to the fact that if we don't hold our institutions up to high ethical standards, that they could slide down into being a force for negativity in our world. Obviously, one of the key topics in this story is the whole aspect of the melding of technology and what it means to be human. We take the Bethany character who wants to upload her consciousness into the cloud when she's a teenager, and as she grows older is continuing to be enthralled with technology and how it can be melded into the aspects of the human form and the human physical body. She sees it as something positive for our evolution as we move forward in tapping technology to enhance human abilities. But at the same time, her aunt, Edith, and the scenes at the end where she's describing the process she's going through and uploading her consciousness, relates it back to whether or not that's actually going to be her. Yes, we can extract memories perhaps from the consciousness of a person, from their brain, and upload it into the cloud and have it be in a computer, but is that really the same person? And I think that question starts forming around the backdrop of the entire series. Finally, in the last episode, I think there are two critical scenes that really sort of are the ones that wrap up the ultimate meaning for me in this particular series. The first scene is where the grandmother sort of reads the Riot Act to the family at one of their family gatherings about how they allowed the world to get to where it is, that they sat back and did not take personal responsibility or speak up when things were going wrong, that they needed to speak up and take action. And I think what grandmother was calling them all to do, and all of us to do, is to look at the world out there and consider how it's not being done to us, but that we have the ability of control and responsibility to step in and help shape the world that we want to live in. So instead of just sitting back and seeing ourselves as a victim to the world, to actually seeing ourselves as someone who has the power and ability to effectuate change. The second critical scene, which I mentioned a second ago, is about Edith and her dying at the very end, and her uploading of her memories and consciousness into the new uploaded system. The question then becomes, is she living on within that electronic environment, or is that the end and it's simply her memories being held there? And the final scene of the series actually leaves that question open for us, and we have to answer it for ourselves and determine whether or not humanness and technology are melding into a state such that technology and consciousness are one, or whether there is something unique and special about us as human beings that transcend the material technology, that consciousness is not something that really can be uploaded into the cloud. So welcome back for those who fast-forwarded through the spoilers. And what I'd like to do is very quickly summarize what I saw as the takeaways from this particular series. Some might be repetitive from what I was just describing, but I think the first takeaway is a recognition that our culture and society and personal humanness and our experiences are all interrelated, that there is this interplay between our individual lives and the people around us and our culture and our politics and our technology, that everything swirls in a grand oneness. And I think that theme was anchored throughout the series. I think the series also spoke to personal responsibility, about the fact that if we sit back and let others just take over and take action without ourselves getting involved and speaking out when we see wrongs or taking actions to right the course of our future, that it can very much go down a negative path. And so we each have a personal responsibility in our thoughts and our words and our actions to help direct the future that we want to create. And finally, I saw this series as speaking to what it means to be human. The topics of forgiveness were central. So many of the family members had to tap into forgiveness in the final episode over wrongs that had been done to one another. And you saw them coming back and recognizing that the power of love and the power of their family and relationships overrode any sense of being harmed by the actions and misactions of people along the way. So relationship and love trump the divisiveness and the wrongs. Ultimately, the story is about our humanness and our evolution and our consciousness, that it's not simply technology is going to be the answer all for our future evolution, but it's going to be the relationships that we grow and evolve. So I hope you got something out of this review of the show Years and Years. If you had a different take or different ideas or any feedback, leave me a comment in the blocks below. If you've got ideas for future videos, drop me an email. The email address is on the screen right now. Thanks for watching. Hey, one more quick thing. I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. The link is down there on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Also, there's a related video you might want to watch. It's right next to my face. And if you like this video, be sure to click like and leave me a comment on YouTube. Thanks.